Okay, everyone, so let's get started. Again, thank you so much for joining day one of week 3 of Neurotech X's BCI 101 Global Event Series. We've got a great show coming for you tonight. We've got Colin Rowett from the UK, from ECBC. We've got Javier Minguez from Spain, from BitBrain, and we've got AJ Keller from Neurosity from the US. So we've got a really global team for you tonight. What we're going to start off with is just a little bit of an overview of Neurotech X, this event, what we're doing, and then we're going to hand over to Colin, Javier, and AJ, who will each go through a little bit about, for them, what does building a BCI product mean, what are their journeys like, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. So do drop your questions as they arise into the question and answer box. We'll make sure we keep a list of them and get to as many of them as possible at the end. If there's anything we can't get to, we'll do our best to pop it in our Slack community, so it will be something that is discussed. So let's get going. So welcome to this event. If you are on Twitter, don't forget to sort of reach out to us tonight. If you use the hashtag NTXBCI101, you'll be able to see all of the activity that's going on Twitter tonight. So what is Neurotech X? Neurotech X is, as it says, an international community that facilitates the advancement of neurotechnology. We aim to be the #1 name in neurotech and really do everything we can that our communities want us to do, everyone who's interested in neurotechnology, of which BCIs, about which this event is formulated, is a huge part. Who are we? We're 20 chapters worldwide. We have around 250 meetup events, 15,000 meetup neurohackers, so people who come to these events and they sort of engage in conversations and they build things and they answer each other's questions. And we've had people who've set up startups. We have 23 student clubs worldwide, so you don't need to be working in the industry. You can just be interested in neurotechnology, and you can definitely be a student. And we have over 4,000 online community members. So if you're not in our Slack already, definitely do join it. I know the team will be dropping the link into the chat, so follow that link and hop into the channel BCI 101 to see the chat specifically with regard to this event. Our 3 pillars are community. We like to build communities, people who are interested in the same things and who can support each other and who can have a fantastic conversation. We're interested in education. We're keen to educate and share all of the knowledge that a fantastic community has. Between ourselves, we generate our own sort of learning resources as well. And we're also interested in innovation. We want to help inspire the next generation of neurotechers to build the next generation of neurotech devices that are going to go out there and change the world. We have several different initiatives. We have our sort of chapters, the local communities. So I myself am from the London chapter, but as mentioned, we have over 20 chapters worldwide. If you don't have a chapter in your area, then definitely think about starting one up. We're always looking for people to join the team and help us expand. We also have student clubs. So if you're in a university, again, if your university doesn't already have a student club, reach out to one of us and we would be delighted to help you set one up. We have a Slack community. That's our main communication hub where people make connections and where a lot of these events are shared as well. So it's a great way to find out about what's going on. And we also have NTX Edu, which is our online education platform. So if you're looking to learn something about the brain and all of the cool technology that you can use with that, that's the space that you want to go to. We've also got a newsletter that we like to circulate once a month. Hopefully the team will be sharing the link in the chat about how to sign up for that as well. That'll tell you all about exciting news and opportunities that are going on in the neurotech space. And finally, we have NTX services. There are 2 sides to this. The first one is that if you are looking for a job, if you're interested in neurotechnology, definitely check out our NTX job board. It's 100% neurotech. I know myself, this is really hard to find jobs that are actually in neurotech. We have a huge number of positions put on there. We really pride ourselves in being something of an industry leader with regard to that front. So if you are looking for a job, do definitely check out our job board. And if you are currently within a neurotechnology company and you're looking for support on the consulting side, or if you're looking to recruit people, definitely reach out to us as well. We've got a fantastic team who support us with headhunting, and we've got a great track record of really finding fantastic people to come in and fill those positions, and you can see nicely that twins with the jobs board as well. So you've got the contact detail there. Reach out to Adam Seffler if you're on the Slack. And join in the conversation. If you're not already on our Slack, we've got just over 4,000 members. Hop in. It's a great place to meet someone who has similar interests to you. And if you're in a business and you're looking for investors, we have those. If you're a student of neuroscience and you're looking for someone from computer science to help you build a product, we have one of those. We have millions of those as well. So definitely do join our Slack. It's a great place to join in those conversations. This particular event, BCI 101, is brought to you by the Moscow chapter and the London chapter. You can see our details there. So our Twitter details at Neurotech MSK and at Neurotech London. You can also join our meetup groups and you can get involved if you want to drop us an email. We'd be more than happy to chat with you. This event is also sponsored by the Center for Neurobiology and Brain Restoration at Skulltech. So a fantastic team that have been supporting us throughout this event as well. And a very quick congratulations to our Twitter competition winners. I'll give you some more details about how you can enter this competition as well in a second. So at Deep Roshan and at Peg Legan, fantastic name. Do drop us an email if you reach out to info@neurotechx.com. We'll also reach out to you on Twitter if you're not at this event. Thank you for sharing a picture of your screen and for joining us for all of these events. And we will get some Neurotech X swag out to you as soon as possible. And if you're watching tonight would like to join this competition to win some Neurotech swag as well, all you need to do is post a photo while watching the event, use the hashtag NTXBCI101, make sure you include those handles NeurotechX and Skulltech_RU, and then just send us a crazy picture of your sort of setup, and the person who has sort of the most likes and shares, we will get a t-shirt sent out to you as well. So back to today's event, we've got a fantastic event coming up for you. So again, day one of week 3, the final week of NTX BCI 101, we've looked at the neuroscience side of things, we've looked at the signal processing, and now it's time to look at what it actually means to build and to create a BCI product. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen and I'm going to hand over to Colin. Colin, would you be happy to unmute yourself and share your screen and we can get started?
I've been waiting for just that moment, Sophie. Thanks very much for having us, Sophie. This is, I was telling Sophie in the discussion that we had before the rest of you joined, this is probably the most organized thing I've done in 2 months. And so that we have Sophie to thank for that. So I'm very impressed with the level of professionalism here. Hopefully I will not let the slide down. I'm going to start sharing my slides now. Sophie has mentioned that there are a number of questions that have been preceded. And the second question is, what are the biggest obstacles to BCI? And I'm going to try and talk to you about our response to that question. So we have a project that's now called ECBC. And this is meant to be a play on words in a number of different ways. One way you can think about it is Easy BCI. And so in 2016, we were trying to do for BCI what the Google Cardboard had done for VR, for virtual reality. So you might remember the Google Cardboard was a cardboard box that you slid your phone into, and then you looked into it, and all of a sudden you had a VR device. And we found when we were initially giving Google Cardboard workshops that maybe 6 to 8 months went by and the only apps that were around were still the Google Cardboard demo app. But then maybe about 9 months in, all of a sudden you started seeing top 10 lists of apps. And these were top 10 lists that didn't have overlap between them. So there was this huge explosion of development that went on simply because Google had made getting into VR as cheap as buying a cardboard box. And so the question was, could we do the same trick with BCI? So to be very clear, we're not aiming for the highest quality signals. We're not competing with Elon Musk in this. We're trying to be the cheapest garage band version of BCI because we want everyone to be able to get involved and play around. So in the summer of 2016, we held a meetup. We advertised it on Neurotech X. And so we got people out from Neurotech X. We used the London Hackspace facilities. And the challenge that we faced at the beginning of the summer was to create a 20-pound, which is about 25 US dollars, 20 something euros, a 20-pound BCI in 2 months. We really had absolutely no idea what we were doing when we started. We were trying to plug electrodes directly into the audio ports on phones. But over the course of the summer, because we had the right people and were in the right place, we consistently got lucky. Every time we needed to get lucky, we got lucky. And so at the end of the summer, we were able to premiere what we called then the smartphone BCI at a hacker camp called EMF. And since then, we've been primarily demonstrating it at hacker camps. We've also demoed it at the Royal Society in London and a number of other places. And we've shipped about 300 kits since then. So what did we do? So this is so you can see the first breadboard that we started with. This is a circuit diagram. I wouldn't expect anyone here to take in too much of the circuit diagram. Let me just see if I can make the screen a bit larger there. So there are 2 stages of amplification and then 1 stage of amplitude modulation going on here. What we're trying to do is boost the signal strength of very faint signals. Neural signals are in the microvolt range. We ultimately want to feed them out an audio cable into whatever device you already have. That's how we're trying to keep costs down. And so to do that, we need to get the signals up to the millivolt range. And so we've got amplification stages that just boost the signal strength. The second thing that we need to do on the board is we need to add a carrier signal to a carrier tone to the neural signal. Neural signals are typically low frequency signals. And when the low frequency signals come down the audio cable, they're going to get filtered out by a high pass filter on the audio port of your laptop or of your phone. That's designed to cut out the background noise like wind, like so we just added a 1 kilohertz carrier tone that you generate on the device. You send the carrier tone out the audio cable, it modulates the neural signal, and then allows it to get back over the high pass filter. So this design stage was led by someone called Graham Hatton, and I think he was one of the ways in which we got lucky. Without Graham, we wouldn't have had this design. So by the end of the summer, we had a kit. The kit was a board. There's a screw terminal on it. We've got medical grade disposable electrodes that we've attached to the screw terminal. We've got a ground for the electrodes as well. So we're trying to do everything we can. So I mentioned already that the neural signals are very faint. We're trying to do everything we can to preserve the integrity of those signals. And this was kind of fun as well. So what we've done is we've braided the cables so that the cables are all receiving the same interference as much as possible. And then we've also wrapped them in kitchen foil. And so that gives them some extra shielding, but that was also part of the fun of the project. We then realized we had a real hacker project if we were going to have people wandering around with kitchen foil hanging from their heads. So that's the board. I had expected at the beginning of the summer that we were probably just going to have a breadboard design, but Nick Johnson stepped in and he designed PCBs before, and so he very quickly put the board together for us, and we were able to print it for the summer when we needed to go live with it. We've been, as I said, giving workshops primarily at hacker camps since then. Typically the workshops take about an hour, a bit less than an hour. And the most expensive component, so like the only thing that I really know how to do well here is control the costs of the elements that go into the kit. And so the most expensive component of the kit is the bathing cap. And I think that this is probably 2017. And in 2017, we had 5 different color bathing caps. So that was really the big innovation in 2017. And then people here are trying software as well, and we'll get to that in just a second. So we've developed 2 very simple apps as well for this. There's an Android diagnostic app. We have a diagnostic app because the basic question that arises the moment you connect this thing up is it working? As I've said, the signals are very faint. There's all sorts of noise in the environment. So you really want to be able to perform some very basic tests on it to see if it seems to be performing even at the basic level in the right way. So Javi Arsenio Cubero wrote a diagnostic app for it, and it has a number of screens. The screen that you see now is just doing a signal decomposition. This is in frequency domain. So you can see there's a spike here at 0. I suspect that's just the lower bound. And then we've got a spike at about 50 hertz, which is the UK mains. So you may want to be picking up on your neural signals, but the electrodes are antennae, and you're going to be picking up on the mains current in the background as well. He's got a second panel that can measure the relative strength of the alpha band of the alpha waves. So if you see low-end commercial BCIs, they're often presented as meditation apps. And so the idea is that if you meditate, you can levitate a Nerf ball, or you can drive a drone up or down. And that's using a very simple technology that takes advantage of the fact that the alpha waves in the 8 to 14 hertz region are always present when neural activity is present, but then they become masked when you become more alert. So as you start attending to tasks, the relative strength of the alpha waves decreases. And so you can read that. We've got electrodes at FP1 and FP2 on the forehead, and then Javi has a little algorithm that just measures the relative strength of the alpha waves. Okay, the second app here is an app that's closer to where we were hoping to go initially with the project. So we were partly inspired by a woman called Ada Majorek, who was a developer at Google at the time. She had Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and realized that it was going to slowly reduce her ability to interact with the world. So she wanted a text entry device that she could drive mentally rather than using her hands, because she knew she was going to lose those. So the text entry app she was using a particular technology called Dasher. So we wanted to add BCI functionality to Dasher. Ryan Lintott, who developed this, started from scratch in Unity. We found that Dasher code was difficult for us to understand. And so the Unity keyboard version here starts, so it takes advantage of a protocol called SSVEP. So this is steady state visually evoked potential. And again, it's a very simple protocol. So the way we're using it with the visually evoked potentials, we're taking the electrodes at O1 and O2 on the occipital lobe at the back of the skull. That's near the visual cortex. If you're looking at something that's flashing at a particular frequency, one of the ways in which your brain processes that signal is by oscillating. The visual cortex will oscillate at the same rate. So if we can present a subject with two different targets oscillating at different rates, and we ask the subject to attend to one of those targets, we have a very simple discrimination task. If one of them is oscillating at 8 hertz and the other at 12 hertz, we're just trying to distinguish between an 8 and a 12 hertz signal on the visual cortex. And so Ryan's keyboard here asks the subject to look at the keyboard. Half of the keys start oscillating at one rate, the other half start oscillating at the other rate, and the app attempts to determine which rate is being attended to, at which point it blacks out half the keys, the half that are not being attended to, it thinks, and then it splits the remaining keys into the high frequency and the low frequency, and it keeps doing that one bit of information at a time until it predicts the key that you're looking at. So depending on how this is set up and how well it works, we've got a hit rate between 90% and 10%. And, you know, at 10%, it's not clear. Like, we should be wiring it up the other way around, as far as I can tell. Finally, what's my title here on this slide? I can't see my title. I've got too many bars at the top of the slide. I've gone up. Oh yes, the hackathon. So this was a nice surprise. After the initial group of people came together in 2016, the people went their own separate ways. And so the project has been largely me packing the occasional kit into an envelope in my flat and walking it out to the post office. But Vladimir Litvak, who's one of the project supporters, who's at UCL in London, was a mentor for a Neurotech hackathon at Ben Gurion University last summer, about this time last year, actually, I guess. And he brought along one of the ECBCs just for fun, just in case, you know, maybe not expecting anyone would use it. But as it turns out, it was, in the hackathon context, a more useful object than things like the Muse, because everything was completely exposed. There was no proprietary interface. You were just getting a signal straight out an audio cable. So use whatever software you want to take the signal out the audio cable, and use whatever software you want to process it, and off you go. Okay, so final slide. This is Tommy, my son, who was partly responsible for the name ECBC. I was trying to make it much more complicated, and then he got me back onto the right track. So as I mentioned, at present, the project is largely me from time to time when someone writes and asks for a kit, walking out to the local post office. I'd like it to become more self-sustaining. To do that, we need to be able to sell it in an online marketplace of some sort. To do that, the circuit needs some sort of isolation. So if you go back to the previous slide here, you can see we've got the electrodes attached to the scalp of the subject. They're then attached to the board. The board is attached by an audio cable to a phone or a laptop. Now, the laptop may be connected by a charger to the mains, to the wall. And in the worst case, there'll be a surge in the mains, the transformer on the charging cable will blow, and that surge will then pass up through the board and then shock the scalp of the subject. So that, an inability to prevent that is what currently prevents us from selling online. We have a couple of ideas about how to isolate the circuit. One is to opto-isolate. Second is to remove the audio cable and replace it with a low power transmitter, and then physically isolate. Again, the big design criterion from my point of view is how do we keep the costs down? Now, this is where we need your help. If you have any interest in getting involved in something like this, please let us know. As I've said, the only thing I'm good at is controlling costs. So that's kind of a hint that I'm not good at the circuit design part. So if you wanted to take a look at the circuit, we've got all of the information available on our GitHub repo. Everything is open source here. And talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. We've got a Google group, and all of the links in this slide are active. Otherwise, ECBC is meant to be easy to find online. Thanks very much.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Colin. Really, really interesting to hear in a bit of detail about your journey, and so inspiring to see from kind of idea all the way to having developed a full product. And I think a lot of people will agree with you that if you're using tinfoil, you're properly hacking, which is great. Fantastic. Okay, that was super interesting. We've got some brilliant questions coming in, which we're definitely going to pass to you as we get towards the end of the event. In the meantime, what I would love to do is pass over to Javier Minguez from BitBrain. Javier, if you'd be happy to unmute yourself and share your screen, and then we can hear a little bit from your side what it means to build a BCI product.
Hello, everybody. So let me try to share my screen. Yes. So well, so it's okay. Everything okay?
Fantastic. Yeah.
Good. Thanks. So yeah. So I'm Javier Minguez. I am a professor of the University of Zaragoza in the computer science department, and I'm also the co-founder of BitBrain. And first of all, I would like to thank the Neurotech X community for inviting me to share with us all the let's say, effort that we have been doing during the last years in trying to bring neurotechnology closer to people's lives. So, well, so the first steps that we, excuse me, guys, yeah,
Sorry, Javier, I think your screen hasn't come up just yet.
Yeah. I'm trying to fix it. Yeah. So, yeah. So the first step that we did in the university was the. It's okay, Sophie. Is my screen there?
We can see you, but I think your screen share hasn't come up to us just yet.
What about now?
Fantastic. Yes, that's perfect. I think it's just loading right now. Yes, we've got you. Thanks.
Very good. So the idea is the first step that we did was in the university, and yeah, at that moment we had a very relevant team of research in brain computing interfaces, and this video shows one of my favorite, let's say, advance that we did in research. It was the second prototype, worldwide prototype of wheelchair control by peloton, and like this we did in my lab other pioneer prototype like. Let's take the first teleoperation robot teleoperated only by brain and actuated in between different cities. We built the very first prototype of a robotic arm also controlled by thought alone. And in collaboration with Switzerland, the APFL, with Professor Millán, also we built the very first cognitive brain interface where we were able to make robots learn from brain activity. So let's say that we had a very important traction of science and research in BCI. And like always, the question was, okay, very nice research, very cool prototypes, but when do you think that this research will reach society? Okay, and to try to answer this question, we created BitBrain, and BitBrain had a very ambitious vision. We could see how this neurotechnology could be present in our daily life, and we really thought at that moment and now that this will be a very transformative technology, and with impact in many different aspects of our lives, in education, in automotive industry. Also, by means of virtual reality, we could try to build these digital twins and sleep and many different areas. So, but at that moment when we founded BitBrain as a spin-off company of the university, one of the first things that was important and now is much more relevant is to understand what's the neurotech dynamics. Okay, so there are two observations here. So the first one, of course, we are in 2020, and is that before these years, everything that the analysts were thinking about this neurotech technology was always in the B2B scenarios, with application in research, more clinical scenarios, etc. And last year there was like a disruption. So where they think that there is an opportunity and the technology is kind of mature to start to penetrate the consumer application, which is very, very important because it's entering in this mainstream penetration. And another observation here is that, again, the analysts, they say that there are like two scenarios for development of this technology, okay? And what will make the difference in between these two scenarios is, one, whether we would be able to find a reliable B2C technology, and the second one, the killer app. But of course, they go by hand. So at that moment, we founded BitBrain. It was in 2010 or a little bit later. Okay, so it was clear that we had to focus on research or clinical applications. And at that moment, say, well, with this vision in hand, how can I make an impact on this market? Trying to how can we leverage this BCI research? Okay, so to understand this, let me just come back to the main idea of what's a brain-computer interface. So very roughly speaking, brain-computer interface is like a neural interface that basically it measures brain activity, and after it somehow processes and converts this brain activity into useful commands that you can give to a machine, or it has a purpose. Okay, so in this direction, there are like 4 layers. The first one is signal acquisition, where you have involved the hardware, neuroimage technology, software, and a little bit of signal acquisition. The second layer is the feature extraction. So from all this data activity, how you process the information in such a way that you get these brain signatures that are interesting. And finally, the third one is how you convert this translation into useful command for an application. And usually all the BCI application, they lie in 3 different aspects. One is monitoring, okay, and in monitoring, in the last years, we have seen a tremendous advance in what we call passive BCI, that basically measures brain activity and after they code cognitive states in terms of emotion, working memory, attention, and these type of things. The second one, it's in human enhancement. So here there is a lot of BCI technologies that goes from the idea of even motor neurorehabilitation, motor compensation, this type of things, okay, trying to enhance the human, okay. And the third one is interaction. So they try to build an improved interaction with machines or with the environment, okay. So in my talk today, I'll be talking a little bit about what we did for the field in terms of this first layer of signal acquisition, which I think in the last 10 years, there has been a tremendous advance, okay, in trying to facilitate the application for researchers. And also we'll give you a little bit of insight of very, let's say, advanced applications that we did through European projects here in Europe. So hardware, it was an issue 10 years ago, and still it's an issue depending on the research area. Okay, typically easy technologies, they require around 20 minutes of setup. They are wet technologies, and the large majority of technologies, they need to add some gel in order to increase the conductivity. They use generalistic layout that makes a lot of sense in research arena, but I would say later, not in application. Heterogeneous procedures and many different things. Okay, so what it was clear for us is that if we want to push forward the technology, we need to do 2 things. The first one is clearly create like a dry electrode technology, but very reliable, okay? And in this sense, this is one of the first advances that we did, and we are very happy because with this technology, we are able to measure the large majority, if not all, brain process that we require for BCI. In the temporal domain, we have a P300, error potential, contingent variation, contingent negative variation, MRCPs, that in the last years, it was thought that with dry electrode technology was not possible to measure, and it is possible to do. And also in the frequency domain, we have ERD, ERS, alpha desynchronization, and this type of process, okay? And the second thing, it was to endow this hardware with a very advanced ergonomic capabilities. And the flag for the engineer was, you need to create a technology with this reliability, but that a person, and every person, needs to be able to self-place in around a couple of minutes, this degree of disability. And also, we are very happy to have this type of technologies. So somehow, what we are doing here is to produce this type of sheets, just to see it now. In the left hand, we have more research oriented. We started to widen the scope of research and let people to penetrate a wide range of applications where people can self-manage, e.g., with a very comfortable technology. So here also is very important to understand what's the research pipeline. How we do the transfer from a research to an application. And the typical pipeline that we are following in research is as follows. When we want to build a BCI, it doesn't matter. BCI for neurorehabilitation, BCI for emotional decoding in marketing arena, and many different types of BCI. First, we do the exploration step. We do the research, we research great technology, and we really understand our BCI and the accuracy of the BCI. And second, if we want to reproduce an application, we do a second step. That is, we do the signal processing analysis, okay, in such a way that the question that we need to answer is, do we need 32 sensors, 64 sensors? No. What's the minimum number of sensors and which ones that you need to get a very similar accuracy in the BCI? And the second, you need to collect all the requirements of your final user and application that of course are different from education, from neurorehabilitation, from gaming, etc. And then you need to re-engineer, is what we call the application-oriented phase, and re-engineer all the steps of the BCI, hardware, software, everything in order to fit the final application. And this is what we have been following, the idea that we have been following in BitBrain in the last years. And our contribution for the research community has been a wide range of different neuro headsets, where when you look at them in detail, they are very well adapted to different usage contexts. Be automation on many different ones. Okay. Activity is the main issue without forgetting about reliability. Okay. As we'll see later, is one of the most important things of BCI today. Okay. The second thing is software. Software, well, before, just for you to understand the videos that you have in front of you, on the left-hand side, you have a video, and here is a BCI study that we prepared like 6 years ago. And what we wanted to do is to perform an EEG study with many different types of biosensors, eye tracker technology. We had an external camera and audio, and everything has to be synchronized with the visual stimulation. Okay, so video is 10x. And on the right-hand side, you can see the current state of the art today in software. So software is very important because of two things. The first one is because it gives you the synchronization of the devices. And yes, in BCI, synchronization between devices is very important because the EEG has a very high dynamics. And 60 milliseconds, 30 milliseconds, it makes the difference in between a process that you can track or a process that you cannot detect. Okay, so when it talks with different biosensors, then it's much more important. Okay, and second is because in software, also the main trend of these technologies is to move towards more wireless technology. And in wireless technologies, we always have uncertainty. And also you need to be able to handle with this uncertainty if we want to build with a very accurate technology. So software for integrating technologies and facilitating the research was very, very important. Okay, and as you see in this video, okay, so in 6 years or so, we have been able to reduce an experiment that took around 4 hours of setup in something less than 4 minutes, everything included. So I think it's yeah, it's cool, like that is important. Okay. And I don't want to spend a lot of time today talking about signal processing because it would take me another call, but only I want to send a message to the community that signal processing is very important in BCI. It's very important and very difficult, and it is something that it has to be always on the table. And the reason why is because EEG, it's a signal, non-stationary signal that has a lot of intra and inter-subject variability and subjected to a lot of artifacts. And then, for example, in the first layer here, in terms of artifacts, you can see an EEG trace, and in yellow are people blinking, okay? And if, for example, you are tracking this feature here, close to the alpha, when you have the artifact or not having the artifact, blue and red, is completely different feature. So you need to filter the artifacts. Also, you have a lot of intra-subject variability, meaning that even without the same subject, in different days, we have a little bit of variation. And as Colin was saying, that this is a very simple alpha blocking. So we have open eyes, open close, okay? We can see very nicely the desynchronization in between two people, the same people, okay? There is a variability. And third, it has a very high inter-subject variability. It's different for everybody. So you see 3 subjects here, different conditions, completely different spectrum. So the idea here is that always when you do BCI, you need at least 3 layers OAI, filtering intersubject, intersubject, and this is something that we need to take into account. Good. So if we move a little bit forward in my presentation, let me explain you a couple of cases, and yeah, I'll be done. So one very interesting case of BCI is stroke rehabilitation. So this is one example that we did, one European project. So the idea of a stroke is that you have a lesion in the brain does not work correctly anymore. So you, for example, your motor cortex is affected, so you lose functionality in the lower limbs. So the typical rehabilitation for lower limb is to rely on treadmill that is mobilizing the limbs. And the way that it mobilizes the limbs via afferent, you can try to generate some neuroplasticity in the motor cortex in such a way that you recover functionality. That is good. But what if we could change completely the paradigm and put the brain in the center, and then try to create a paradigm like where the treadmill is stopped, and then when you activate correctly your motor cortex as measured by BCI, then you can give positive feedback and then start to try to move the treadmill. Okay, so we demonstrated this paradigm. It works in stroke rehabilitation. Okay, and this was a very tremendous, a very large effort, European effort, that was coordinated by Professor Axel Grasser in the University of Bremen, and it's a very nice use of BCI. Another one is for spinal cord injury. So here the problem is a little bit different in nature. So you have the pathway between the brain and the limb is interrupted by the lesion. And the way that we use here brain-computer interface is to build like a shortcut in between the brain and the limb. Okay, so here the idea is that for these people, there are very few rehabilitation technologies. Okay, and this has a clear opportunity here. For example, here what we see is the person is thinking in about the action, taking the spoon and bring it to the mouth. BCI decodes this action, gives you a functional electrical stimulation system in the arms that electrically stimulates the muscles of the arm, and then by using several commands is able to bring the spoon and try to perform the feeding action. And here in this project, we were very happy because this is a colleague from the University of Graz. He has been BCI user for around 50 years now, and he was one of the main users of this technology. And one of the things that he said that was the project was amazing, but one of the most important feedback that we had for us for BitBrain is the technology, the Neuro headset, because we completely built from scratch for this application. I would say that it would be very difficult to use for other applications, but for this one, yes. And it was the most positive feedback that we get from reviewers and also for final users. The project was coordinated by Professor Gernot Murer-Prutz from Austria. And also we are active in the cognitive enhancement, which is a very similar application here, where in principle is the same. So we want to move out of the typical stimulation, cognitive stimulation paradigms and try to use a BCI. And the way to do it is the same. We monitor the brain activity, we decode, and when we detect that the person is activating the brain rhythms of interest correctly, then we give positive feedback. Otherwise, we give negative feedback. Okay. So here, these applications, we have had over 1,000 people using this technology for weeks. And yeah, right now we are penetrating 3 corporations that are very, very interested in incorporating this technology. And for me, again, and for the sake of this presentation, the most important thing is that the final users are elder people, of course, for trying to increase their cognitive capabilities, and the operators are people of the houses of the elder people. Okay, so no technicians around, no people around. BCI need to run and give value there. And finally, my last example, this project was carried out with Nissan, EPFL, and ENRS of Canada. And here is in the context of the automotive industry. So here the idea is that when we are driving and I want to press the brake, it would take me like from the movement onset in my brain up to the brake, it would take like 500 milliseconds or something like this. Okay, so 500 milliseconds is a lot of time, but I could be trying to see like a BCI technology that detects the onset and automatically send the brake order to the car. So like this, and given the fact that we can detect in the premotor potential around 0.4 seconds before the movement onset, we can get 1 second of saving. And 1 second of saving running at 100 kilometers per hour, it's around 12 meters of braking distance. Is the difference in between life and death. So it's a very, very interesting also application of brain-computer interface technology. And I think that that's all of that I wanted to tell you. For me and from my experience, I've been many years working in research projects and also in application projects. And the idea is that if research is research, application is application and product, and if we want to successfully penetrate application with one product, we need to re-engineer everything from scratch. This includes hardware, software, signal processing, everything. Okay. And the second thing, I think that there is a tremendous opportunity in brain-computer interface technology and neurotechnology. I think we are on the path to reach society, but we need to be very careful and try to always demonstrate value that could come in the terms of cost or come functionality on many different aspects. Reliability is very important, and the adaptation to the final user is not the same to deal with a child in education or with an elder. Makes absolutely no difference. And this affects everything, application, products, and for your attention.
Amazing. That was fascinating. Thank you so much, Javier. I think I was aware of some of the amazing things that had been done using BitBrain hardware. I think I didn't know that the scope was that big, so it was fantastic to hear it. And we've got some brilliant questions coming through that we'll get to you later. First of all, Javier, if you'd be happy to stop sharing your screen, then I would love to call upon now, is he there? Yes, he's there. AJ Keller, if you would be happy, from NeuroSky, if you would be happy to go ahead and share your screen and unmute yourself. And we would love to hear from you as well. AJ, if you're there, you're still on mute. There we go. So it looks as if AJ may be having a little bit of tech trouble. What we will do, AJ, if you can hear us, we're going to reach out and see if we can help you get the tech working. In the meantime, what I would absolutely love to do is share a couple of polls with our team. So we've got a couple of polls. We thought it would be fantastic to answer some to ask you some questions of our community, everyone who's out there. And what we will do is I'm just going to pop a poll up on the screen. So hopefully everyone is able to see that now. And I'd love to put this question as well to, everyone's moving around. Oh, fantastic. AJ, you're there. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, fantastic, fantastic. What I'm going to do is, guys, I'm going to end the poll. We are going to bring it back after AJ's talk. AJ, I'll hand over to you.
All right. Sorry about that. My Zoom decided to freeze. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I love Neurotech X and everything about it. I don't think I'd be where I am today or as far as we've gotten today without Neurotech X's support. So if you're new to this organization, it's a tremendous opportunity for you to meet like-minded individuals and connect with people all around the world asynchronously and immediately. And it's just incredible opportunity. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'll go ahead and share my screen, although it says host disabled attendee screen sharing. If you could take a look at that, Sophia or Sophie.
Yeah. No, of course. I am going to make you co-host, and hopefully you should be able to share that now.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Yep, there we go. Super cool. So I'll come over here. All right. All right. So at Neurosity, we are working on brain-computer interfaces. Obviously, that's why we're here. My two previous speakers did an amazing job of covering some of the basics. So I'll be able to sort of skim through what they said and not even have to talk about it. And I'll just jump in sort of into what Neurosity is all about. And Alex and I, who started this company, have been programming and have been developers for years. And we know how hard it is to stay focused. And there are days where I show up to program and I'm, on fire, and I'm having all these magical moments where I'm like, all the answers are coming to me instantaneously. And all of a sudden I have this problem solved and it's amazing. And then there are other days where I come in and it's like nothing's working and I can't find the switch and I just am not doing well. And so we started diving into that and saying, okay, well, is this something that brain computers could actually help us with today. Could they actually help us be more productive? And, the brain is always producing different brain waves, right? The alpha, beta, gamma, different waves. And we mainly look at the alpha wave, and we sort of map this to a flow or concentration. And we also use the beta wave, so we can see when you're concentrated or when you're distracted. And then we use that and we put our headset on, and we're then able to understand while we're programming, how our focus changes throughout the entire event or throughout the session. And then can we actually improve it so that we have more of those magical moments? And Notion is this, beautiful sort of organic looking brain computer interface that's supposed to be, freeing of, your face. And we think that, anything on the face should be tried to be avoided. And we love the motor cortex for the, the ability of motor imagery, but we love the idea of creating something that's sleek and that is beautiful and is fun to put on, and empowering to put on. And that's why we created the Notion. It's got 8 channels of dry electrodes that are able to pick up on data from the prefrontal cortex and the motor cortex. And this is some of the software that we have. And essentially we're able to then break down your day. You wear this while you're programming, and you're able to see how your efficiency changes throughout the day and count the number of distractions. And something really cool happens where if you are aware that you're getting distracted a lot, you can then refocus again, and all of a sudden you've saved this 30-minute session. Or one of the things that I'm most excited about using is this idea of sort of looking at a brain computer interface as sort of like a peloton bike, where you are sitting down for a 30-minute session or 25-minute session, Pomodoro, or 45-minute session to program, and you're putting on the headset, and music's automatically being played for you, and you are in the zone and you're showing up to work. And creating that daily habit is something that we really care a lot about, and it's helpful for me as a programmer, and it's helpful for a lot of other people too. And it's really all about this idea of, can brain computer interfaces be the first thing that helps programmers have more of those magical moments, help us all, write more code, right? And write better code for the world. And that's really where we see our first applications coming across. And myself, I was a robotics engineer for Boeing on their automation line. So trying to build airplanes with robots, a lot of fun. And I've been in this space for like 5 years. And Alex, my business partner, he worked on the devices team at Netflix. And he is a terrific programmer. And, if you follow him on Twitter, he's absolutely terrific. His coding is incredible. And this has been, many years in the making. So if you look up at the top left, you can see up here, I have essentially a breakout board for the ADS 1299 and a Raspberry Pi sitting on top of a pair of Bose headphones. And we have iterated and prototyped, tons of times. And really the whole concept here is like, can we create a one size fits all piece of headwear that has everything it needs to be autonomous? And one of the biggest things that we talk about when it comes to brain computers is dropping the I, so dropping the interface from the concept of a brain computer. And I think if you look at the first principles, right, of like, okay, let's play this world where there is a successful consumer application. Is the processing for the usefulness of that application happening on the device, or is it happening on, a tethered computer? Is it happening on someone's cell phone? And as a developer in this space for years, I realized that trying to ship an application for people to use that's dependent on the application doing the data processing. So let's say I wanted to control a wheelchair, and if I have to have my device on top of my head, sitting on my lap, and having a laptop on my lap, which is then connected to the wheelchair, there's an inevitable where that laptop may crash, and then all of a sudden I can't drop my wheelchair. And so there's this whole concept of, well, let's do all of the data processing on the actual headset. So we just are launching our updated version, and I can tell you some of the specs for our new headset, right? It has an 8-channel brain imaging system that uses the dry electrodes, but it also has, a real-time processor on it running at 400 megahertz. So that's able to do the actual data collection. And then there's also a quad core computer running at 1.8 gigahertz. And there's enough battery now to last 4 hours, which is more than most programmers will actually program for. And so I think Javier made excellent points where you have to design the hardware and everything from the ground up for the application that you're working on. And I think that's so important, you know, and when you start thinking about, okay, well, how long does someone program for? Okay, you know, 3 hours is really the most. So can you make it last at least 4 so that it always overruns that? And then, you know, all you need for the Notion to be successful is just a little bit of Wi-Fi. And as soon as your device connects to Wi-Fi, it's running its own server on it. It's doing all the data processing locally on it. It's all encrypted. So if you want to send any data to a client over the web, it's all through SSL and has, you know, great encryption and login and everything. And then if you want to do LSL for research, the device actually runs LSL locally on it. So all you have to do is flip a switch and you're now streaming LSL. So you don't have to go through any middleman. It's all done. It's autonomous and it's really great. And we've shipped over 60 development kits last fall, and we've got another batch that are going out this year. We got tremendous feedback on it. Can we make it, you know, can we change the comfort of this electrode? Can you make the battery last longer? All different types of feedback like that we've incorporated into our new device that is just remarkably better. I'm looking at it right now, and it's really remarkably better and more improved. So I'm very excited about that. And it has, like I said, this whole entire chipset in it that's designed for autonomy. So everything, you know, instead of having to send your brain signal to another device for processing like most of the other devices do, you actually are able to instantaneously start doing data analytics on that raw EEG data, and then being able to produce useful meaning from that. And what we'll end up doing later this year when we on Notion 2, you'll be able to load your own applications onto the device. So it can run, you know, a special app that's just for motor imagery that was designed by another company that's running locally on your own Notion headset. And you will have like a little app store that you can download and install different skills to. And the Notion actually goes to the internet, grabs the application, downloads it locally, and installs it. And then, you know, the user can run it or stop it. And, you know, obviously give it permission for different, you know, does it want FFT? Does it want raw data, right? And granting use to that. And the way that you get data out of this mainly is through JavaScript. So we've made it incredibly easy for developers who are experts at web technologies to come in here and create really rich applications. And so let me just show you a little bit of what this actually looks like. And so I'll hit escape here. Come over here. And so this is the activity log. So if you go to, this is just a website, right? So if you go to console.neurosity.co, you'll be able to claim your device and you'll be able to see your data, your activity log from the last couple months. And so you can see like online, how much is the battery charged? Is it charging? Different things like that. You can see raw data. You can get frequency. You can get PSD symmetry. You know, there's like obviously FFT. You can do some motor imagery training, and all of that happens locally on the device. And then it allows you to make applications like, this is a good one. For example, if I go to ocean.neurosity.co, this is using WebGL and uses our client to log in, authenticate, and connect to a device. And so if I take my device over here to my right, I don't know if you can see me. I'll stop my screen share for 1 second so I know you can see me. So it's charging, right? And it's expandable. All you have to do is just put it on like this. Very easy. You know, we didn't want too much away, you know, near the forehead or anything. So it's all on the side and it grips. It's one size fits all. And then if I share my screen again, you see over here that like the waves will settle when I calm down and like focus on my breath, you know, very easily. And you can see over here, it's charged, it's online, and it's super easy and you can log out. And this is an open source application that you can check out the source code with. And over here, if I go back to home, you'll see that the snapshots are coming in automatically. And once it gets a little bit bigger, it'll be a session. But if I go to May 4th, you can see I did like a programming session see here. This is May 4th. So you can see here, like the different programming sessions I did throughout the day. It's not the best day. Let me see if there's another day. Here's April. I don't know. But yeah, so you can see the different data and how efficient you were in that session. And we're trying to count the number of distractions in each programming session and sort of create actual value for people to use. And we have some more apps launching soon. But yeah, let me go back to sharing my screen. And so the whole thing that we are different by from other neurotech companies is that we are really focused on programmers. We're like hyper focused on that. And that's all we really care about. We're not worrying about, helping selling a research product, as much. We are just focused on, can we create more magical moments for programmers? And we really believe that the future of, at least like the start of brain-computer interfaces proliferation throughout society is really going to be because programmers are picking up these devices because they allow them to get a better edge on their actual performance. And it allows them to build a habit of productivity. And that's really where we see the first thing taking off. And we're getting really great feedback from our first couple apps. And we have this proprietary hardware platform that we've built, right, where it's one size fits all. It's, you can connect to it in a line of code. And we have proprietary software. So this is a screenshot of the music app that we are launching soon, that automatically picks your music for you based off your brain activity continuously to keep you in focus longer. And that's it. And so you can follow me on Twitter. I'm always posting about brain-computer interfaces, always happy to answer questions, anything like that. And I'm always around. Thanks.
Amazing. Fantastic. Thank you so much, AJ. That was really, really interesting to hear. And really? I think I probably speak for a lot of people here when I say it's amazing to see kind of all of the thought that goes into these kind of different products that you're building. And I love seeing the kind of development from the sort of almost cardboard cutout of this is what we want it to look at all the way through to the final product.
Yeah, it's amazing. It actually worked. I mean, Alex was like eating dinner with his girlfriend's parents and like saw on like one of the walls like a rack of ram horns and was like, that's it. And then all of a sudden he like came in the next day and had a paper cutout and I was like, oh my God, how did you do this? And that was it.
It's fantastic to see. Brilliant. Well, a little bit of an apology to our viewers. So we have run a little bit over time. For those of us who have joined previously for NTX events, you might know that everyone's super engaged. It's really easy to kind of keep on talking about these fascinating topics. So we're running a little bit of overtime. If you're able to stay with us for a few minutes longer, we've got some fantastic questions that have been sent into our speakers, and we would love to share those with you. But first of all, I'm going to bring back that poll. As I do, AJ, Colin and Javier, if you'd be happy to sort of just pop your cameras on. You can keep yourselves on mute for now to avoid too much interference. But if you just want to pop yourselves on, then we should be able to see you. And I'm going to bring a poll up. So if I relaunch poll 1 that I think a lot of people had started answering in the couple of seconds or so since I popped it up, while we get our audience just to vote on this one. So the question is, what would be the coolest thing a BCI could do for you? We've got a couple of options. So telepathic communication with another person, hands-free control of digital devices, or to keep you kind of healthy and performing at my best. So I'd love to hear your insights, each of you, in terms of what you think the coolest thing a BCI could do for you. Colin, if we start with you, what are your thoughts? Oh, sorry, Colin, you're on mute. If I can get you to unmute yourself 1 second, thanks.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. How about to unmute myself without having to use my hands? No, so my cheat, I said at the beginning that we were interested particularly in trying to do text entry. And we had this the situation of Ada Majorek in mind, where she was losing the ability to communicate, was trying to write something that would allow her to communicate longer. But the other thing, though, as I've thought about it, is I just want to see what people do with this technology. So I want to drop the costs. I want every kid who wants to play around with this to be able to play around with it. And I want to see the crazy sorts of things that they come up with. So we found out very quickly with the Google Cardboard, again, to use that as an example, we saw like Mercedes had an ad where you could pretend that you were driving a Mercedes. I mean, like, who would have predicted that? Oculus had this demo where you put your head down and a guillotine came down on it, so like that, I want to open it up and see what people do with it. That's it.
Amazing. Fantastic. Javier, what are your thoughts?
Well, for me, my thought is that health is something that you do not appreciate unless you lose it. So for me, there is no question. So I think that for me, the coolest thing is to keep me healthy and perform at my best. And I think, honestly, from the three applications that you are mentioning here, is the one that is closer to change our lives, because we can see now a tremendous advance in motor neurorehabilitation, cognitive neurorehabilitation, high performance, etc. So my view is the third one. Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. That's really interesting. And actually, just as you said, that was your choice. I'm just watching the responses come in. The sort of keep me healthy one jumped up by about this much. So you're influential. Fantastic. And AJ, what are your thoughts on the coolest thing a BCI could do for you?
Well, definitely the coolest thing a BCI could do for me is keep me healthy. You know, today I love that concept. You know, there's such a double side to productivity, and that you need to have like mind wandering exercises. But definitely in the future, like, you know, I'm definitely fighting for that full telepathic, you know, control where you are able to have that magical moment of not, you know, solving your own problem, but of having the answer come to you, you know, instantaneously with right into the brain. And like, I mean, I'm always going to keep fighting for that future where we have, you know, just this amazing tertiary layer over on top of us that allows us to be, you know, super controlling of all digital devices, and just like soups up the brain as much as possible. And at the same time, you can unplug it and go on a walk with your dog, and you don't have to be at, you know, the control of the computer, so it's not implanted. And I think that'll be the coolest thing that a BCI will do. But for now, it's definitely helping me be more productive so I can build that future faster.
Yeah. Fantastic, great. I love how one feeds into the other. Yeah, so if I end that poll quickly, I'm just going to share the results out there. So I think we had really interestingly split, but I think our winner was going to keep me healthy as well. Fantastic, cool. So we've got two other poll questions for you guys. So if I launch our second one, so again, audience, vote at home, answers on a postcard. What do you think is the biggest blocker to getting a BCI in every person's home? So we've thrown in a couple of options there. So the tech isn't advanced enough. Most people don't understand all of the cool things they can do. Hopefully we've done something to address that tonight. We need to sort out ethical issues first. I think that might be something that AJ would want to talk about, or BCIs are still way too expensive. So what do you think? Should we go for Colin first again? What are your thoughts on that? Oh, you're on mute. Yeah, he's got it.
Yes. I don't know that I have a global thought on that. I mean, clearly what we're trying to do is drop the entry costs. And so I think at the consumer end of the market, the only things that are out there so far are these meditation apps, these meditation devices. And that's not yet really a life-changing game. It's not a game changer yet. Some of the other projects that people expressed interest working on when we spoke to them about this was, you know, controlling a remote control car, for example, using BCI to do that. So that might make it a bit more interesting. So I would probably say some mix of 1 and 3. That at the nope, 4 has disappeared. I was going to say 1 and 4, but 4 has disappeared. Yeah, I'll say at the price, the technology isn't doing enough yet for most people to have found an application for this.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, really interesting insight. Javier, over to you.
Thanks, Sophie. So for me, as I mentioned, apart from the features that you can give to a product such as like even is expensive, not expensive, etc. For me, in terms of BCI as technology, 3 things: value, reliability, and adoption. So value means that even though it's reliable, even though it's inexpensive, etc., if it does not give value to me, I will never use it, even though it's at home, in the park, in every place. So value is the very first important thing. Reliability also is very important. There are a lot of studies in the motor neurorehabilitation where we try to learn what is the minimum acceptance, the minimum reliability that we need to know to the technology to give acceptance. So reliability is very important, and adoption. And I'm going to give you an example that it was a tremendous learning for us in a very big European effort, okay, research effort, in this brain-computer interface that we built for the spinal cord injury. This project headed by Professor Müller-Mutz in Austria. Okay, so we reached a moment in the project where we had to everything electrically designed, everything was working perfectly. BCI technology, super cool. Everything was super cool, and we come up to the aesthetics. Okay, so, and then at that moment, we wanted to give some aesthetics to the device, and the final user, the person was going to use, tells to us, no, no. I don't want a medical device. Then what you want, a technological device. I don't want a technological device. Why? Because if I need to wear this in the street because I have no choice, I can't move, I need to wear this in the streets. And I don't want to be medical because this is a visual stigma that I don't want to face. I don't want to be technological because it's not technological. And then we have to build like a very specific language in terms of aesthetics for this device, only for him to adopt the technology. So it was not about reliability, not about cost, no. About the aesthetics when he leaves home, okay? So it was a tremendous learning for us.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's a really good point. I think that's often something that comes relatively late in the flow. Yeah, really interesting. AJ, what about you?
Oh, so many answers. I think the biggest thing is probably you're fitting into people's lifestyles. Like there's only there's a finite amount of things people do on a daily basis, and finding how BCIs add value into at least one of those things is terrifically important. I think Muse did an amazing job with going into a lot of homes simply by providing value. You know, people are already meditating, so can you provide something that helps that, right? And with Neurosky, people are already programming. Can we improve that, right? And can we be a thing that people turn to when they want to be a better programmer, right? And so it's this idea of like, can you intertwine storytelling and creating and understanding what does the future actually look like, right? And then sort of doing a back propagation to how do we actually get there. And if you are able to get programmers starting to buy these devices to help themselves be better programmers, right? Then you have like people who are already using the platform to start creating applications for it. So lower the barrier to entry for people to be able to write applications for it. So the idea is that if they're already using it and they're already incorporating it into their daily lives, they'll start writing apps for it, which will then acquire more people to the platform. So it's a snowballing effect where you have the right people, right? So if I went to market to people with, people who are, making, driving tractors, right? Those people aren't going to be actually writing applications for it. So I think it's the smartest thing to do is to write applications for people who will then write applications to create this snowballing effect where we'll have this terrifically rich app ecosystem that's adding more value into more people's lives and getting more people onto the entire system. So it's and time. It's going to take time to make it happen. I think that's one big thing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think I agree. And if I just pop up the results on the screen there, so I think we've got a kind of main response from the audience was that the tech isn't advanced enough. I think something that we've seen today is that the tech is fantastically advanced, and it's sort of a question of what do you want the tech to do. Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for your thoughts on those three. So we've got some fantastic questions that have come in from our audience. I'm aware that we're running a little bit over time, so if everyone's happy to stay for 15 more minutes or so, and then what we think we will do is to take all of our questions and funnel them to the NeuroBar. So our NeuroBar, for those who haven't joined previously, we've sort of been setting up a Zoom bar, which will be open on Thursday this week after the final event of the series, and we'd love to encourage the discussion, but we'll answer as many questions as we can for the moment. So just got these sent over from the Team Festival. So if we said, I think one of our earlier questions for Colin was from Mohit, who sent that through via Zoom. What are your thoughts on possible applications of your device as a sort of single-use system in the medical field? Is that something you've considered?
I think in medical, you want something that's probably much higher precision and higher reliability. So we are using medical grade disposable electrodes, and those are used in clinical environments. So there may be some very low end. I mean, you could imagine seeing maybe a sports physiologist or something like that, who's no one's life depends on anything here. But no, we really are just trying to do the most basic entry level things, and just see if we can get something to work in a reliable signal. And then, as I say, trying to get it available to kick out to other people, because other people are going to come up with the interesting applications of this kit. It's not going to be us.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's really interesting. I know that I work in sort of medical devices myself, and all of the regulation that goes into it is absolutely massive. So I think kind of streaming your product to where it fits best is important. Brilliant, brilliant. So question for Javier from Maris, who's also watching on Zoom. Thank you for joining us. So Maris mentioned that he saw some VR in your pictures, in your slides, but couldn't find a sort of VR specific system on your website. Is there something that's coming up on the VR front? Oh, sorry, you're off. Well
yes,
done.
yes. Thank you very much for the question. The thing is that this product was programmed to be released, if I remember correctly, during May. It means like this month. However, due to COVID, we had to stop a couple of months. So I guess it will be in the next months, it will be delivered. And the idea of this technology is that what we wanted to avoid is the fact that if one day you want to use VR in combination with EEG to produce BCI technology, you don't want to place the VR and after EEG headset place everything is too much. So then we build a technology that is seamlessly integrated in VR technology in Oculus and HTC, and then very straightforward, you can place the device and then you can use the VR technology with the EEG technology. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It would be one of the first devices of this type. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Yeah, fantastic. No, that's really exciting. I know there's kind of two things on your head complicates things a little bit sometimes, but no, very exciting. And I think just very quickly, there was an appendage to that question, which was whether it's possible to use LSL in context, so lab streaming layer in context of the BitBrain device.
If we are able to use LSL with all devices, yes, 100%. So what we have done in BitBrain to favor integration by the research community is twofold. The first one, all BitBrain technologies share the same SDK, meaning that for people to build products on top of BitBrain products, they just need to integrate one SDK, and from one day to the other, they have, I don't know, 10 or 15 devices straightforward integrated in their technology. And the second one, there are a lot of researchers that they use lab stream layer in order to do this data transfer to other platforms. And of course, we have this ability integrated in our technology.
Okay, fantastic, great news. Brilliant. And then a question for AJ that's definitely up my street. AJ, do you think, I know you were showing us the N1 chip, do you think that having data security is important for BCIs? If someone was able to get hold of my brain data, what's the main risk?
I think data privacy is important for any product you make, whether it's a smart oven or a smart headset, smart EEG headset. Privacy is absolutely critical. That the choice of privacy is at the person's disposal, and it's the person's discretion. And that's the big thing that you have to give BCIs is the ability for people to opt in. And so we always say opt in, not opt out at Neurosity. And the idea there is that, you should have to log into your device and you should have to grant rights to applications to use that specific data. Right. So for developers, it's important that you have access to raw data to build your algorithms on top of. And I love that. And I actually, I love the future where developers are able to black box their code and run their applications on our headset. And I don't have to know your algorithms, and it's providing value to our users who are already using the device to help them. So, it's so important. And then every couple weeks, or every week or so, there's new research that's coming out that's using EEG data to derive some biomarkers. So for me to say that it's sensitive or not is sort of irrelevant. I assume it's sensitive, and then we try and protect it. And so it's the easiest thing to do to protect your raw data is to delete it. So have a 30-second buffer of time where you can operate on that data, and as soon as it is overrun, destroy it and just overwrite it. And so the notion is always overwriting your previous data, because, as soon as you use it for the application, you should delete it. And that's really how we protect your privacy. And if you have to send data, you should have to, use SSL and everything. I think it's critical, that you use industry standard practices when you design these.
Yeah, fantastic. No, it's a really interesting question. I think it's easy to consent for your data to be used, but if you don't know what it could be used for, or no one's discovered what it could be used for, then how do you know what you're consenting to? Brilliant. We've got one question that's come in that I think is relevant to everyone who's on the call. So I'd love to, for the sake of time, maybe get like a quick one-line or a top reason from each of you. The question is from Eric on Zoom. So there are many different sort of non-invasive EEG hardware companies, but a few of these have been successfully adopted as mass market consumer products. Why do you think many of them haven't succeeded into breaking into the mass market? And I think this touches slightly on the poll earlier, you know, why don't we have a BCI in every home? Colin, if we start with you, what do you think? What would be your top reason that the mass market's been so hard to break?
Well, I think the technology is still developing. I mean, this is, I think, what Facebook is trying to do, what Elon Musk are trying. I mean, Elon Musk is already going in at a higher end, but yeah. So you're looking for an interesting app at the right price, and I just don't think we have that yet.
Great. Javier,
it's a tautological answer rather than anything, but.
Yeah. Well, for me. It is very pragmatic, but I think it makes a lot of sense. So for an engineer, the question that you're posing to me is like to say, I have a sensor in the market, and why this sensor is not adopted? And then the answer is, for me, it's very clear, because this sensor needs to be useful for something. So at the end of the day, the sensor comes with an application after it, okay? So what I think in the BCI community, we have to do like sensors, okay, which are the Neuro headset, plus the application, and then give value to the final user. But this comes all together, okay? So this is my view, okay? So AG presentation, I think it was very clear in this direction. We have this technology, and we have, and we know what we want to do at the application we want to do, okay? And we will do everything for them, okay? So I think it makes a lot of sense. But the sensor alone, it has less value, and it's a bit more difficult to be adopted.
Yeah, definitely. And AJ, what are your thoughts?
I love what Javier said. It was a long realization to realize this, but BCI is just part of the story, right? It's not the story. The story is helping programmers have more magical moments. And how do we do that? We use brain-computer interfaces to do that. It's not the other way around. And that's really what we have seen that will drive us to success, is focusing on a demographic, obsessing about them, interviewing them, doing ethnographic research, understanding programs, understanding what their lifestyle is. And just, you could do this with truck drivers. I mean, there's a company called SmartCap that I think did a great job with like the obsession on who's driving this, you know, helping truck drivers from falling asleep at the wheel, right? They happen to use BCI to make it better and to do something that nothing else could do. So that's how it is. It's part of the story. It's not the story.
Fantastic. Yeah, great insights. Brilliant. So I reckon we'll see if we can wrap up in 5 minutes or so, which I think means there's time for just one more question each. As mentioned, the questions that we don't have time to get to today will not be going to waste. We will be bringing them back in the Neurobar later, so they will be discussed. Question for Colin: what kinds of software are compatible for processing the data from your device?
Unmute again. Anything that processes audio signals. So we've used Audacity, we used MATLAB, EEG Lab, and MATLAB. There's been some talk about LSL as well. I haven't seen it being used, but I mean that's the whole point. It really is very easy to work with. Can I answer another question as well? I saw the question about entertainment, just plain fun. So here was an idea. What about a weekend hackathon in which you try and get 3 people using a 1-channel ECBC to collectively control a drone? So each of them is trying to mentally control 1 channel of the drone's control, and you have to fly an obstacle course. I thought that would be an idea.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna take a note of it. Hackathon. We will definitely put that on our books. I'll be in contact, Colin. We'll explore it. But
perfect.
Amazing. Brilliant. So a question as well for, I'm going to jump to AJ as we've just got some questions coming through for Javier, and then Javier will come back to you. You will get your final question, I promise. Question for AJ: how does the notion work on a neuronal level? Is it basically based on monitoring alpha waves and therefore concentration? There may be some stuff that's kind of behind a sort of a patent wall on this front, but anything you can tell us would be fascinating.
Absolutely. I would always encourage you to go to docs.neurosity.co, where we have a bunch of writing about the different metrics that we have out there. and how they're produced that go into really good detail. And they're, you know, we look at like the alpha reactive state. And so that's looking at how your alpha wave changes. And we also look at, you know, gamma, how that changes throughout your focus, and try and create a score for that that's self-calibrating. So you should be able to put the device on and not have to go through a training session, and have something that's always updating. And so that's really what design like drives our metrics, is can you have something that is automatically calibrating, that's always changing, and that's sort of set on like, well, if you know the alpha level is supposed to be, you know, it's a maximum of this high, where are you at for the last 15 seconds? Has it increased or decreased? And sort of creating our metrics like that.
Okay, fantastic. I know that's probably your secret sauce, so thank you for sharing that much information at least. Brilliant. And back to Javier. So your final question. So this is with regard to the sort of motor function restoration BCI, which was absolutely fascinating. I think applications like that are so important. So this is a question from Eric on Zoom. How many degrees of freedom have you allowed a user to manipulate with the motor function restoration BCI for paralysis patients? Can they control multiple degrees of freedom simultaneously using this system?
Thanks a lot, Terry, for the question. So here, the question is only one, and I'm explaining you why. And it has to be only one. The reason why is because here, the idea, well, is motor restoration of motor rehabilitation. Now I'm doubting, I will answer both questions, okay? So in terms of motor neurorehabilitation, which is a stroke patient here, so the idea is that you need to track a very specific neural correlate in the motor cortex. And then let's say that when the person is activating correctly the motor cortex in the way that you expect, then is when you trigger the machine. And by triggering the machine and mobilizing the legs via afferent, you're touching the motor cortex and generating the neuroplasticity mechanisms. This is how it works, okay? So with only one, but it's not a motor command, actually. It is a very specific neural correlate that triggers the action of the treadmill. And for the spinal cord injury patient here, I cannot remember exactly, but it would be a maximum of 3, maximum something like that, and they are high-level commands. We don't expect to control the technology. Degree by freedom of degree by freedom is more like grab the spoon, take this action or the other, and by using context, it will be augmented the action. And I want to mention, Eric, if you are more interested about this, my colleagues are writing a blog in bitbrain.com, and they are explaining all these details of the control EEG technology. So with many different things at a basic level, okay? So I think it's very useful, like to get information. It's a very nice place to get information about BCI technology and related things.
Fantastic, that's great. I know our team love to have some extra interesting bits to read, so thank you for that. Brilliant, so I think that might have to be a wrap for the event. Thank you for bearing with us, Colin, Javier and AJ. I know we ran a little bit over time, and I'm sorry to everyone whose questions we weren't able to answer. As mentioned, we will be chatting on our Slack community in the channel BCI 101, and also in the Neurobar on Thursday. So first of all, a massive thank you to Colin Rowett from ECBC, Javier Minguez from BitBrain, and AJ Keller from Neurosky. And just before we go, to let you guys know what we are up to. So this is an ongoing event series. We've got 2 more events on on Wednesday and Thursday this week. So tomorrow, do join us. We've got some more talks about building a BCI product, focusing less on the kind of the developer and the flexible product side, and more on products that are kind of built up and down. This is what our product does. So we'll be hearing from some people who are working in sort of VR and gaming with BCIs, some sort of medical products, and also some neuromarketing. So do definitely join us for that. Join us again on Thursday, where we'll have our final talk of the series, and that will be looking at careers in neurotechnology. And do join us on Thursday for the Neurobar as well. We will be inviting Colin, Javier and AJ to join us for the Neurobar if they are available to do so. I think AJ might be, but we'll double check with Colin and Javier. But if they're available, then hopefully they'll be happy to join us. I'll send you guys details. So a massive thank you for everyone for joining our event. Thank you for sticking around. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening as well. So many thanks.
Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.